The meta in Call of Dragons is ever evolving. That's why we should evolve with it as well. So, in this video, I'm going to be breaking down every single talent for the commanders as of right now in Season 2, October 2023. So, stick around because we're going to be diving in the best talents of each and every single commander, in my opinion, of course. What is up guys, MEOWER here back with a brand new Call of Dragons video. It's been a while since our last video and I have quite missed you guys. Oh, I went on a little vacation, near the end of every month I tend to go on a little vacation, blow off steam between work, some COD stuff, the usual. But enough about that. The meta, as always in Call of Dragons, is constantly changing and constantly evolving, so we should do our best to evolve with it as well. So in this video, I got a special one for you, where we will be discussing every single best talent on each and every commander that I use and don't use as well, in my opinion, that will help you just dominate the open field and rallies, garrisons, whatever you want to dominate, you can dominate with this. So enough of the introduction. I know you all want to see the juicy stuff, so let's get started. So of course we're going to be using the Roots of War interface here in order to utilize our bestest um, way to access the talents. So of course we're going to be starting with Hosk. Now Hosk, this talent is purely for archers. You should not be using Hosk primary on any other unit type because he just doesn't have any synergy with anyone else. So for this talent we're going to be using Hosk as our primary in the Hosk Kinnara build, for melee build for counterattacks and dealing as much DPS as possible. Now, I'm not gonna dive in detail every single time like I usually do. This diving into super extreme details is for the specific commander guides, just so I don't take long, because if I dive into every single detail on every single commander, it's gonna take forever. So, without taking any longer, hope you've taken your screenshot. Of course, I will be leaving chapters in every single commander here to make it easier for you to access those. Hosk should not be a primary in rallies either, just a preface for that. So yes, this is like the most viable page on him being a primary with archers. Next up, Liliya, our crazy mage. Of course, she's OP. She's one of the best open field commanders right now, and having her primary with Velyn as her secondary, this is the perfect page for them. You'll notice that going forward, I'm putting a lot of emphasis on March speed because, well, March speed is actually a pretty underrated stat, and I myself have not been speccing into it properly till now, but you should definitely spec into it for sure. So I highly recommend you always go for March speed going forward. Next up, Syndrion. This is like the perfect. This is like the perfect page for him going forward. Pretty much puts a lot of emphasis on a lot of stuff. Usually I would use Invincible, but since I'm already getting a higher output of force of onslaught from here, it's better off just getting some value from Whirlwind instead, so that they don't overlap, and always the higher percentage takes priority anyways. So having 10% is much better than having 5%, 8% I mean, and the extra damage might add up here and there. Next up, Velyn. Of course, Velyn, if you are using him primary, it doesn't matter what the secondary is, this is like the perfect page for him. It gives him everything he needs, control, just a lot of CC, a lot of damage. I've been liking PvP 3 way more than Magic secondary. More Army of Valor is just so much better, and he already has a built-in Magic Maelstrom, so there's really no need for you to run Magic Maelstrom on him anymore. Plus, the amount of damage Fury Flame here is far more valuable than Intimidation. Just everything here is just so much better, with the exception, of course, of the overall speed, and you will be missing some slight HP here, but it's still worth it, Next up, Ffraegar. Ffraegar should not be a primary, but if you happen to use her as primary, I would just use this as a raiding build with Wilderberg flying marches. And of course I would give the march speed, I kinda autopiloted and put in defense instead of march speed. So yeah, I mean, nothing else to say about her. Not a worthy primary. Next up, Kinnara. This is like the perfect counter-attack Kinnara build. If usually Kinnara, when she goes for a counter-attack build, she's either paired with Hosk or anything else, but this is like the Kinnara Hosk build, though I would prefer Hosk primary instead of Kinnara, mainly due to the increased tankiness that Hosk provides, though Kinnara provides far better DPS if she is the primary. So each their own. Personally, I tend to like more Hosk Kinnara than Kinnara Hosk. Next up, Madeline, the biggest mommies of all mommies. I'm liking more March speed on her, especially on infantry, because you want to get your infantry in position as quick as possible, so the added March speed is far more valuable than the 1.2% defense that this provides, and everything else here just gives her so much stuff that she needs. Going on tank here is not worth it because, well, you're already getting everything else here much better than you would be getting here, and wasting 15 talent points just to get meh one, while you could just invest those 15 in getting so much more value from these instead. Next up, we got our boy Nico. Nico, like the others, just go full precision. The marksman tree is pretty bad. These two are pretty awful, so there's no need for you to waste any points into the marksman tree just to get those two, when you can just get far more value from the precision tree. Next up, Garwood. Garwood should not be a primary at all, and even if you do happen to use him as primary, just run this page on him as the garrison lead, I guess. But still, Garwood should not be primary at all. I delivered the message. Don't use Garwood as primary. Next up, Theia. Same concept, should not be primary at all, but if you should happen to use her as primary, honestly, I don't even know what to run as Theia if she's primary. Like, she's just not a primary, you know. She's just better off being a secondary, but if that happens, maybe you can run a support build, you can run a PvP build, but I would prefer just run the support build and see how that goes. Bakshi, you know, the standard cavalry build, just go for as much skill damage as possible, just to nuke people as quick as possible and then run away. Though steady hands is pretty good, though I would spec into Raging Tide and then 1 point here in steady hands instead of this one. So just fix those a little bit here. Hopefully, if you're listening to the commentary, this is a full rally build as well. This is like if you want to run Bakshi as your rally lead, you go full on skills tree. Next up, we got our boy Emrys. Emrys is in the same boat where he should not be the primary, though this is like a pure raiding build. This is just you go full Sonic, you run around the map killing every single march you see. I would not recommend Emrys as being primary though. Next up, Nika, same boat, should not be primary, but if that happens, you can just run the nuking Nika Bakar build that you just go in and nuke people with a lot of skill damage, but she should not be primary. Next up in this same boat, she's just a gathering commander anyway, so she should not be primary at all. Even for PvP purposes, just use this to get as much as possible, though I would replace this instead with Earth Grace, though this works for Roots of War as well, just to have Joyful Labor so that you can just run away every time you escape or something, but yeah. For primary, Emrys secondary is by far one of the best cavalry open field marches. The control tree just gives cavalry so much stuff that they want. It's insane. Like having Cyclone Seal, having Blindside, and having an extra defense penetration just gives them so much good value, and silencing them so that they can get wrecked. And you're already a rage engine, so you know that you're gonna be proccing this quite a lot of times, so Ffraegar extremely OP as primary when paired with Emrys or Bakshi or even Theodore, you know, whatever you want to pair him with, as long as he's primary, he's super strong. I know he said in his video that he should be secondary instead of primary, but the extra 10% damage and the extra march speed is just too good to pass up on. Theodore, he's in the same boat as Bakshi. If you're gonna run him as the garrison, then go for the garrison tree. The garrison tree is just disgusting. You can always use it, though this is the open field guide, so Of course, this is the best open field build for him, the exact same as Bakshi pretty much. Eliana, not viable for PvP. Pan, not viable for PvP. Alistar, not viable at all, throw him in the trash. Gwanwyn, if you do happen to use her as primary, you can go for Precision Marksman, or you can use the same Nico build where you go for full precision. Atheus, you can always go for the Mobility Raiding or the PvP Magic Maelstrom Breachblade, where you just cycle around your defense breaks and you just run around the map killing everything in PvP or raiding or whatever you want. Alwyn, the same thing. You can have the defense break build or the controlled silence CC build. Each are up to you. Just pause the video, take a screenshot, and use it. I will update the MEOWERs then, though, with all those talents. Hopefully, when I'm stop being lazy. One day I will. One day. I promise. And yeah, Waldyr, if he's with Alwyn, then I would recommend this build, where he just cycled so much CC and everything. But if he is with a standard mage, then this is the primary page. Though of course I would go for Raging Tide and 1 point in Steady Hands instead. And of course the March Speed. Never forget the March Speed. Bakar, not viable. Kregg, not viable. But if you were to run Kregg, I would just give him the same exact tree as I gave to Ffraegar instead. Or Chakcha, the best commander, though I will leave you to guess the skills on him. Kella is a gatherer, and Ordo is just an engineering, so you just go for raw engineering anyways. And yeah, I think that's pretty much all the commanders in Call of Dragons right now, as of today. Of course, if you have any questions or you have any different opinions than me, feel free to let me know in the comments down below. I would love to have a conversation with you on those builds. But on that note, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please drop a like. Don't forget to subscribe. Join the Discord. The link is in the description, and I will see you in the next video. Meow meow.